Did you know there was a World War II concentration camp in Jamaica? A concentration camp or an internment camp is a prison camp for the confinement of prisoners of war, enemy aliens, or political prisoners. I certainly did not have any idea about this until I did the research, and I know a lot of you watching may have never heard about this. If you have not heard about this before and it's the first time you're hearing about this, give the video a thumbs up.
Don't forget to drop a like and a comment. Don't forget to subscribe.
I did not learn that in school, and I'm not sure if anyone from the Caribbean had learned that either, because there were concentration camps in Haiti and in Cuba also. Before we go any further, I just want to do a special shout out to Chin Chin, Florence Chin, Jacqueline Chin, Marshall E. Goodwin, Errol Wallace, and Errington Mullins. And Paul A. Seminar use the TH in my videos, like thee, thou, that, they. Instead him say, may I say, thee, thou, that, they. If that's the only thing that Paul A sees in the video to comment about, I'm not sure if I really find the reason why he watch the videos. Guys, if you can explain that to me, please explain it to me. But otherwise, from that, this me think about Paul A comment. Even though the Gibraltar Camp Road section of the UE campus in St. Andrew, Jamaica seems quiet and unassuming today, 60 years ago it was totally different. It was the site of an evacuation camp for some 1,500 Gibraltarians, hence its name, and I'm not sure if it's Gibraltarians or Gibraltarians, as I've heard both terms. It was also an army base and later an internment camp. The land was covered with row after row of wooden huts and a few commodes here and there. It all began in November 1941. Some 500 Polish Jews were staying in Lisbon, Portugal, which at the time was one of the only Western countries which was still letting Jews in, as their visas to the United States were no longer valid and they faced deportation. This meant they would return to the Nazi occupation lands to be sent to death camps. I don't know if the video is monetized because I'm going to use some words where YouTube don't like. About 200 of them decided to ask for the assistance of the exiled Polish government. And the day before the deportation date, they reached an agreement with the British government that would see them evacuated to the Gibraltar camp in Jamaica, which was a British colony at the time. The British government demanded in return that the Jews would fund their stay, to which they all agreed. The 200 who were lucky enough to remain on the list of the living arrived at the Lisbon port on January 24, 1942, joining some 850 Jewish refugees on a ship making its way to the US, Latin American countries, and Cuba. On February 9th, the ship docked at the Kensington port, bringing 157 refugees headed to the Gibraltar camp. They were later joined by some 100 additional refugees from Luxembourg and the Czech Republic. In 1940, the English had given orders to establish an evacuation camp for anywhere between 7,000 and 9,000 war-threatened civilian inhabitants of their Mediterranean colonies, Gibraltar and Malta. Located at the entrance to the Mediterranean, the Straits of Gibraltar, which link the Mediterranean Sea and the North Atlantic Ocean, are found on the southern coast of Spain. Malta is located in the middle of the Mediterranean, halfway between Sicily and North Africa. Seated under the Treaty of Utrecht, Gibraltar has been a British colony since 1704. During World War II, which broke out in 1939, the civilian population was evacuated to Britain, Madeira, and Jamaica in order for Gibraltar to be fortified against the possibility of a German attack. By 1942, 30,000 British soldiers, sailors, and airmen were found on Gibraltar, and 1,500 Gibraltarians were in Jamaica at the time. The then Mona estate was considered an ideal location for a refugee camp because at the time it was government property, spacious enough and located close to Kingston. The Public Works Department spent £375,000 clearing the site, putting in roads, constructing barracks, stores and offices, as well as a police station, a hospital, and the cottages for senior staff and the Roman Catholic nuns and the priests who would monitor the refugees. Major General Bob Nish recalls hearing that many of the barrack frames were constructed on board ships en route to Jamaica, which accelerated the building process immeasurably. The wooden barracks is situated in long rows, numbered 1 to 112, each 150 feet long, 25 feet wide with a 7-foot veranda. Upon completion, the camp's 252 acres was enclosed by a wire fence. Water, electricity, and a telephone service were also provided. Clippings from the Gleaner in 1940 recorded the arrival of refugees. The photo on screen shows some of the barracks erected for the refugees at Gibraltar Camp in Mona. The first set of 1,104 Gibraltarians, 185 men, 673 women, and 246 children arrived on the Nurela in October 1940. And guys, the Nurela was an hospital ship launched on September 12, 1912. It was owned by the British India Steam Navigation Company. And you can research that. It's a really interesting story. Thousands of Jamaicans turned out to welcome them, punctuating their bus trip to the camp with cheers. One of those was a young Jackie Thwaites, who remembers how as a Boy Scout his troop turned out to help guide the Gibraltarians on their way. A second group of 393, which was the last set of Gibraltarians to be evacuated, arrived in November. By that point, all men over 45 and all women regardless of age, were ordered to leave Gibraltar. The Maltese never came in large numbers. A Maltese delegation that visited the island was said not to have liked it, and they did not wish their families to be placed under the rule of black and colored people. You want to tell me what you think about that in the comment section down below. The Gibraltarians had plenty of room. They were living in a camp meant for 7,000. After much discussion, some of the extra space was used by Jewish European refugees following special appeals to the British Empire. 153 arrived in 1942 and 107 more came later. The number of Gibraltarians grew during their stay in Jamaica, as over 100 Gibraltarian babies were born in the camp. Good times. Peter Macaulay, a mess officer with the West Indian Regiment stationed at Gibraltar Camp at the time, recalls that residents would come and go between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. once they logged in and out. Soldiers could leave at 11:59 and a pass was issued for the time they were to be back. Jamaicans entering the camp without passes could however be fined. The camp was first run by an English commander, Major Henry Sims, whose residence is one of the few buildings from that era still standing. It remains on Gibraltar Camp Road near the Papine entrance and currently houses the offices of the University of the West Indies Development Foundation. A Jewish refugee, Miriam Stanton, who came to Gibraltar. Guys, I'm not sure if you all can hear the rain, but the rain kind of come down. A Jewish refugee, Miriam Stanton, who came to Gibraltar Camp as a young girl, she said, "It was a bustling and lively little town. They had, along with the Dutch refugees, over 3,000 people living in refugee section of Gibraltar Camp, and about 1,000 employees working there. They were completely self-sufficient. They had schools, a hospital, shops, offices, a police station, even a lockup. There was always something happening. Concerts, weddings, fights, scandals, and unfortunately, funerals as well. They had beautiful gardens and everyone tended his own little patch." She goes on to note that there were churches and a room to be used as a synagogue, as well as a kosher kitchen. Each room had an army cot, chair, and a table. Those refugees who had a trade were allowed to work within the camp, which translated into payment for the hairdresser, barber, shoemaker, tailor, and others. Books, newspapers, and radios were available. There was never a shortage of food. End quote. Yet, some Jewish refugees have sad memories of the camp, referring to a lack of interest among the local Jewish community despite the fact that certain individuals within the community did extend a welcome. This lack of interest may be as a result of the fact that the refugees were Ashkenazi Jews who did not speak English and the Jamaican Jews were Sephardic. In late 1943, a section of Gibraltar Camp near today's Mona Rehabilitation Center was run by the military as a family internment center for Italians and the Germans, previously housed at Up Park Camp for the men and Hanover Street for the women and children. And guys, an internment camp is a prison camp for the confinement of prisoners of war, enemy aliens or political prisoners. And a concentration camp is for civilian citizens, especially those with ties to an enemy during wartime, as the camps established by United States government when Pearl Harbor did get attacked. These internees mainly came from the British West Africa. They had been working there as tradesmen when the war broke out, and they were shipped to Sierra Leone, the Gold Coast, and Nigeria, later Jamaica. Uwe Zitzo, I'm going to put the spelling of this name on screen because I'm not sure how to pronounce this. A German from Cameroon, British West Africa, remembers that his family was one of the last set of internees to leave Gibraltar camp. Although 7 years old when he left Jamaica, Zitzo remembers there were probably about 60 families in the camp, mostly professional Germans and Italians, construction workers and missionaries, who had been interned in British West Africa during the war. The families were housed in 8 barracks, and there was also a dining hall, school, and staff quarters. Zitzo's father raised rabbits in their yard and built a community oven, baking bread and cakes. There was a sports field, and each month movies were shown. Plays and concerts were staged every now and then, and the children were taken on field trips. By the end of 1943, Gibraltar Camp employed 186 local staff and 446 evacuee staff. There were 1,530 Gibraltarians as well as some Spanish evacuees, Polish and Dutch refugees, and a few Finnish internees. When the war was over, Zitzo recalls that most internees returned to Germany and Italy, although some married Jamaicans and stayed. As for Zitzo, he moved with his family to the Dominican Republic, where his father worked at a chocolate factory, and eventually to the United States. At the end of the war in 1944, the Gibraltarians, by then numbering close to 2,000, are said to have left on one big ship. Those who had married Jamaicans simply took their wives with them. Jamaican historian Artley Netia recalls that when the time of departure came, Gibraltarian women paid their last visit to the Papine market, where they received many hugs from the Jamaicans who were sad to see them go. Upon their safe return, the governor of Gibraltar sent a letter thanking the Jamaican people, noting that the Gibraltarians remembered that Jamaica gave them sanctuary and made them welcome. Many of the Jewish refugees left for Cuba and other destinations, although some moved to the nunnery until they could find permanent homes. Following the end of the war, the colonial office closed down the camp, and a part of it was used as an ex-servicemen's training school until 1947, when the camp buildings and some 650 acres of the combined Papine and Mona estates were handed over to form the new University College of the West Indies. Some of the old Gibraltar camp buildings have been converted, such as the present personnel office, which was once a part of Gibraltar camp dining room. Others, such as the aforementioned commandant and deputy commandant bungalows, the camp recreation hall, turned the campus drama theaters, and the old library remained fairly intact. The commodes and cisterns found in a few locations on campus are further reminders of a somewhat forgotten era in Jamaica's history. The Mona Rehabilitation Center, located near to the University of the West Indies and the Gibraltar Camp Bell, used to signal meals and gatherings, and are now a part of Uwe's new sculpture park and are also reminders of a bygone age. Also, there were other internment camps in Jamaica during World War II. At Up Park Camp, for example, there was a prisoner of war camp, where German and Italian prisoners of war, mainly merchant seamen, were held. Look out for that in the coming video, guys, and thank you so much for watching. It was really a pleasure having you here. Really appreciate the support. Thanks for those who are helping my GoFundMe. Guys, support the Patreon, please, because videos like these, I really wanted to put this on Patreon because I'm not sure if I got monetized over here on YouTube. Alright, thanks for those who have been supporting or who support the PayPal, because I'm gonna check it. And if you're still here, let me know in the comment section down below. Please let me know if you have ever heard about this camp that was here in Jamaica. If you ever hear nothing at all about this. And yeah, if you never did hear about it, click the like button. Alright, blessings, y'all stay safe. Look out for the next video.
Well over 1,000 women and children are repatriated to Gibraltar.
Jamaica. Don't forget to drop a like and a comment. Don't forget to subscribe.